occasioni per Nedved, gol! Pirlo, la conclusione in rete! Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco! Del Piero, gol! Alex, Del Piero! Pogba, rete! Un gol incredibile! Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium!
Whew. We are here for episode 338 of the Turin Giants Podcast. Ciao tifosi Bianconeri. I am Kevin, your host for this episode. What a match. Just an incredible game to watch, and we are so ready to get into it. Finally seeing a style of play we haven't really been accustomed to with Juventus over the last couple of years. Spalletti's fingerprints are undeniably all over this Juventus side. 9 wins in our last 11, and this could not have come at a better moment with other top sides dropping points over the weekend. We get goals from our 2 North American players, refereeing decisions actually going our way for once. We score off of a cross and a header for the first time in what feels like an eternity. We put in another clean sheet performance. Miretti has another outstanding outing, and maybe, just maybe, we are starting to see some continuity. So much to unpack today. I am here with my dear friends, Zach and Frederic. Frederic, let's start with you, just saying hello to everybody, because we know we almost didn't have you for this recording. So we're thrilled to have you.
I'm thrilled to be here. Yeah, I'm still a bit under the weather. I'm getting there, but it's a long process for some reason. Bit strange, but it is what it is.
Man's got the plague.
Yeah, probably. It'll be something like that. But, happy to be here after this amazing win, because I can't recollect a win like this, especially not number-wise. So I'm thrilled. I'm living off adrenaline right now. So
amazing. Hopefully some of the medicine's helping as well, but a 5-0 victory helps. Zach, how are you, my friend?
I feel great. And this is why you get into sports. So that was the funnest game. It had a little bit of everything from the controversy on the maybe red card penalty against Locatelli to goals from crosses, goals from set pieces, goals through the middle, 5 goals spread across 4 members of our team, and unfairly, I feel, a member of Cremonese. It was so exciting to see from start to finish, and I can't wait to break it down.
And we absolutely will break it down. But Frederic, just to the point you made, you can't remember the last time we had a victory of this margin. What year do you think the last Serie A victory was by 5 goals or more?
Has to be either 2018 or 2019, I think.
I was gonna say
right
19.
on the head. 7-0 against Sassuolo, February 4th, 2018.
18. Okay.
Well done. Yeah, 2018. Fantastic. Well, we are live on YouTube, and we are joined by so many regulars, and we see some new faces here. Mitch D93, Mohammed 1997, Allianz FC, Del Piero 109, Bojan Stojanovic. Scrolling up here, Pinu, always good to see you. And I'm sure I'm missing so many others, but thank you for being with us. It's always such a joy to share in what sometimes is frustration and venting, but other times like today, it's going to come from a slightly different source. If you're joining us in audio format on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or other streaming platforms, or rewatching the video on YouTube, thank you for coming and listening and watching us. We're, again, just grateful that you spend some of your time consuming Juventus content with the Turin Giants crew. Obviously, you can follow us in social media at Turin Giants and on our YouTube page, Turin Giants Official. Now, it would be way too easy just to jump straight into this match, but there is a congratulations in order. So for those of you who may have missed it in the news, the Juventus women celebrated their first trophy of the season with the 2-1 victory over Roma in the Italian Super Cup. Juve, of course, participating in that as the 2024-2025 Serie A winners. They overturned the result. The game started off 1-0 down. They fought back, and superstar and Juventina Fantastica, Cristiane Girelli, had an 85th minute back heel to clinch the victory. So starting the season on just, if you haven't seen that goal, please go find it. Pretty miraculous stuff. She's on fire, whether it's for Juve, whether it's for the Italian national team over the summer. She's quite a remarkable Juventina.
It's an amazing moment for the women, obviously, who did win the Scudetto of the season, but they stole it from Roma, who had won the 2 previous seasons. So this very much was a rivalry Supercoppa, and to take the victory against a team that they're 5 points behind in the table, I think was a great confidence boosting moment for the women, and hopefully they can make up that ground in the table to retain the title.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it was also nice to see that they got their moment in the stadium today to show off the trophy and whatnot. And people applauding and giving him an ovation was really good to see.
Yeah, so congratulations to the Juve women, honoring the shirt, bringing home a trophy. Absolutely fantastic. Hope their good season continues. Now back to the Cremonese match. Guys, just without getting too into the details, just give me the most pervasive thought you have. What are you left with? Just try and summarize it as tightly as you can without getting into too many details. Zach, we'll start with you.
Cohesion on the pitch. We've had very good wins over the last a year and a half, but we've very rarely shown consistent cohesion on the pitch. And seeing a team that finally seems to be playing together, it was fantastic and makes me really optimistic.
Frederic.
God bless Luciano Spalletti. No, I'm serious. If we played with the same players with Tudor or Motta, I don't even think we would have won this game. And it's so blatantly obvious to see what Luciano Spalletti has done in such a short amount of time. You know, we used to think a couple of months ago that we had to change everything, that nothing was good in this team, and we had to rebuild from scratch again on zero, because, you know, we've seen so many trainers failing here, and Spalletti proved us wrong. So now I'm waiting for those 2, 3, maybe even 4 players to get the general level up, and then we're on to something. But God bless Spalletti, man.
Yeah, and I have to go on record, and I may have mentioned this in a previous pod, but I'll say it again. I was terrified of him joining as manager, and I think the 3 of us were on with Beppe at the time when Tudor left, and we all had to name the manager who we least wanted to join when it was rumored between Mancini, Spalletti, and Palladino. I said I didn't want Spalletti. Zach, I think you were in this. Were you? I
said Mancini. Said Mancini.
Okay.
But I will also qualify that I was not a big fan of Spalletti, and I didn't particularly want him to come either. So I was with you on that. You know, maybe it's not the same extent, but definitely with you.
But credit where it is due.
Yeah, I think I was the only one. I think I was the only one a bit charmed by Spalletti or the things that he could offer to Juventus. And I'm glad I was right, to be honest, because imagine if this went sideways. If this went sideways, then, you know, where would we be at this point in time, and what would Juventus even be or how our future look like. So I'm happy for once that I was on the right end of the stick.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take it all the way back to the beginning. So we look at the starting lineup for this match. I think the only personnel change was Kelly coming back in for Koopmeiners. Zach, what were your reactions when you saw the starting 11?
That this team had no excuse not to build on the progress that they made in the last two games. Outplaying Lecce, but not coming in with the win, to then going 3-0 over Sassuolo. Let's continue to show that top level play. We've got consistent starting 11, no tinkering, right? Let's dominate the game. And that is exactly what they did. So showing that trajectory, that upwards trajectory of progress, cohesion, and production was just fascinating and fantastic.
Frederic, did you like seeing the 4-2-3-1 right from the get-go and not something we kind of merged into or played?
Yeah, I was kind of getting fed up with the hybrid formation because you have to, assume a certain stance at a certain point, and I'm glad he did it now. I was also very happy to see Kelly back, which means, because I'm a big Kelly fan, but not just that, which means that for me, Koop is redundant at Juventus at this point. Because Spalletti has a choice between a fit Kelly and a fit Koopmeiners, even though Koopmeiners is doing well in the back line, he'd still pick Kelly. So that's a bit of a first world problem for us for the summer, I think. And the fact that he played Miretti again. Granted, with the 4-3-2-1, you don't have that many options, but glad to see him giving Miretti confidence after that amazing performance. And even better is the fact that Miretti awarded that confidence and played a decent game, but we'll get into that later on.
Just one note about Koopmeiners. I mean, you and I have talked about it, Frederic, about how he's sort of the backup option as both that left center back position and in the Locatelli position. Well, today, starting with the four-man back line, when Bremmer was subbed out, you saw Koopmeiners not going back into the defense. Kalulu shifting over, and McKenney, who was playing one of those attacking midfielder positions, switching back to right back. I think we now see Koopmeiners' position shrinking, not to be back up in those two positions, but now really just being a backup Locatelli, which means he's even more limited in what he's doing for this team.
Yeah, and that's going to be a problem, because you can't have the backup of a backup, which you paid 60 million for, and paying 5 million net a year. So I'm curious to see how that's going to evolve.
Yeah, and there's no way he play. I mean, if you look at our core midfield three, even though McKenney's kind of all over the place these days, but he doesn't play Locatelli, Thuram, or McKenney off the pitch right now.
No. And we're going to get to it. Not how they played today either, especially not how they played today.
Yeah. So coming into this match, right? Like we had the really nice 3-0 victory over Sassuolo midweek after what was a convincing performance against Lecce, despite the final outcome of that game and some of the mistakes and flaws in front of goal. But we had two matches with quality performance. Spalletti, Zach, and as you and I think agreed, it was really good to see Spalletti kind of being humble about the last victory and not like leaning in too much of a celebratory way with the team. But yes, it's a good victory, but we still have to do this. We still have to do this. We're not winning the right challenges. We're crossing the ball not well enough. We're not being aggressive enough, not moving at pace. And coming into this match, what were some of the things you wanted to see, either from something you may have been worried about or something that you wanted to see continue?
I think one thing we've been clamoring for since Mota joined is quick, cohesive, central play to develop threat. I think we've like at Sassuolo, we scored and had opportunities by winning the ball high up the pitch to do quick counterattacks. I think that's great, and you're always going to have that in your locker, but you're not always going to be able to execute that, especially against better teams. You need to be able to score different ways. And I liked, and I've talked a lot about scoring in different ways and being able to build up through the pitch. And today we saw several times quick, rapid, central build-up play that yielded 3 of our 4 or 5 goals coming that way. And I think that was an evolution of the things that Spalletti wants this team to do. And as long as we're continuing to improve and Spalletti sets the bar high, like he did in the post-game comments after Sassuolo, that means that we have still more development and growth to do, which means that we have growth up the table that we could potentially do, our stature returning to where it should be within Serie A and in Europe. And that makes me, again, optimistic.
Frederic, what did you want to see coming into this match?
I wanted to see more diversity in the attacking build-up play, because at times I felt that we were too predictable, especially against the little teams, between hyphens, that lock themselves up in their own penalty box. We always tried to force it through Kenan, which to me felt a bit redundant because, as I said in previous spots, what's going to happen if Kenan's not there or injured? And who are we going to lean on? I'd like to see some more vertical flow, even on the right-hand side, because I feel that since Conceição was out, we kind of neglected that side attacking-wise. But today, we came in from the left, we came in from the right, we came in from the center. Quick build-up play, easy 1-2s, running between the lines, true passes, crosses, headers. I think today we saw it all, and then that makes me optimistic because you have so much more offensive weaponry to choose from if you see that it's going well, especially with this formation and these players that we have right now that, according to me, are just getting into their shape right now. I don't think we've seen the full potential of the individual players in Juventus this season yet.
No, definitely not. And I think, for speaking for myself coming into this match, wanted to see continuity and consistency from David and Miretti specifically. I mean, David coming off of what was a very forgettable match against Lecce, having a little bit of a redemption, if you can call it that, against Sassuolo, and would that continue, or would he slide back into a bit of mediocrity or have some mistakes? And then Miretti's performance, it's something that it's been up and down, right? He has some really nice moments that shows us why we think he's this great prospect coming from our academy. An Italian Juventus player, always put a bit more in the spotlight than others. And we just want, I think, him to perform, and it becomes emotional, and it's from the heart to a degree. And is he going to rise to the occasion, or go back to the bench, not have a good match, show mistakes, be a bit soft? So seeing that coming into the match was very interesting. And of course, the question that's always there, and this will be our transition into actually starting about the play, is when, not if, but when will Cambiaso have a blackout moment, and will we be penalized from it? And no less than 10 minutes into the game, he shows us certainly what he's capable of right before we started scoring. Frederic, do you want to break down that blackout moment?
I don't even think that Jesus H. Christ himself can bring that moment down. It just went short-circuited in his mind, like he does every game. And I'm not going to say that he had a bad game, but he didn't have a good game either. I mean, in comparison with the rest, he was fairly bleak, I felt. He wasn't as, how shall I put it? He wasn't as gritty, as offensive as the other players were in terms of retaking the ball and delivering key passes in. I thought that was just a mediocre performance again by Cambiaso. And from what I've heard on the pitch, he was the one that got yelled at the most during the first half by Spalletti. So it came to no surprise that he subbed him eventually. Followed by a Grova, which we'll talk about later as well. But for me, those two players were the disappointments of today. It's very difficult because you have to keep up with the level of the other players that were exceptional today. But with those two,
if people have forgot what the blackout moment was, because we didn't reference it, that the ridiculous chest attempt back to DJ with the player on his back.
Yeah, way out of touch, way out of sync, not enough speed or weight on the ball. And I always hate those chest passes towards the keeper because they're very dangerous because the chest is, well, part of the body that's very difficult to control. So you're taking a risk. I mean, if you can chest it, you might as well head it, or at least, excuse me, or at least hit it. Excuse me, hit it with your tie or something, so then it doesn't come off your feet and it doesn't, the keeper can just take it. But I don't understand where it comes from. The only way you can chest the ball back is when the ball has enough speed and the exact height and everything. And yeah, Cambiaso took a risk there, and it wasn't the last one he took this game.
No. Why don't you get a tissue there and take a deep breath. Bless you,
Poor
Freddy.
guy.
But shortly after that,
Yeah.
we did get our first goal of the match, stemming, I mean, not directly off of a free kick, but it certainly was initiated by one. Zach, do you want to talk us through this just tremendously taken goal by Bremmer?
Yeah, it's absolutely a free kick goal in my book. You have a set piece kind of over by the corner. The defender heads it out, left-footed volley from Miretti. Didn't really seem to think like he there was no doubt in his mind he was going to take it. And Bremmer, who's in the right place at the right time, knew he needed to be right there to deflect it perfectly with his head, fully intended. Deflects the volley into the far, at least the side of the net that Aldera wasn't leaning to for an opening goal, which was an absolute fortuitous circumstance. But I think a product of being in the right place at the right time from a Bremmer's perspective, who clearly had no idea what was going on, and a confidence of a player of Miretti to actually strike a volley like that pretty decently, which is really hard to do. So I think maybe now in retrospect, that was a sign of good times to come. If you can pull off a volley like that and a deflection to go in a goal like that, maybe that's just your day.
It would have went in, I think, regardless.
Bremmer, though. Frederic, go ahead.
Sorry. I think it would have went in regardless. If Bremmer didn't touch it, I think it would be somewhere to the left side of the goal, and it would have been pretty unstoppable. And to see how he takes that at that point and tries that, is a testament of how these players have gained confidence over the last couple of months.
Yeah, and I just judging by Bremmer's celebration, putting the ball under his shirt and sucking his thumb, I guess his wife must be pregnant. I don't know if this is his second or third kid, but congratulations to him with that celebration. And this is his first goal since coming back, right? If memory serves me.
I believe so, and I think, as much as it wasn't intentional, these types of moments, I think, are often really important in confidence in the player of, like, just getting over the mentality of being out, and if there's any lingering mental effects of that injury or something, I think this helps alleviate that, to be like, I've returned. Sort of having that stark moment to say that they've returned, and I think that's really good for him. I think it's great for us as fans to see him contribute as well, albeit unintentionally. In sort of the set piece game, we've lacked a cutting edge, and corner kicks, especially, and having his presence in the box is a huge boost to those chances moving forward. At least I certainly hope they will be.
Yeah,
Sorry, I just hope that his scoring off the pitch was more intentional than the goal he scored today. So, yeah, but I mean, you never know. Could be a lucky mistake like today. You never know. But what I think is great to see, because it was, I can't recall the exact minute that we scored. The
11th,
the 11 or 12, and it's good to see that we get the lead so early on, because that's been something that we've been working on as well. We start very aggressively, yet don't manage to score very quickly, and we did today. So that was another positive point I noted there, in terms of comparing to other games.
I mean, our first goal against, I had to double check my notes. Our first goal against Sassuolo was 16 minutes in. So it's 2 games in a row where that pressure that you can see the team trying to apply in those early minutes has paid off. And that's a good sign. We've talked about what Mota, his entire reign was marred, I mean, by a lot of things, but one thing in particular is an inability to get us to play well for the first 15 minutes of either half. Tudor as well, and showing, us being able to show fight and execution early in the game is a stark difference between those coaches, and that is something that will and is benefiting us. Fact.
So did you guys realize that this is the first time all season we've gone into halftime by being up by more than one goal?
More than one? Oof.
Yeah, first time all season.
I didn't realize that. I do know, like, from a Sassuolo perspective, we waited a long time for that second goal, something like the 60th minute or so. So going in at halftime 3-0 was a luxury.
Literally the first time all season going into halftime by up by more than one, which takes us to the second goal, right? Which scored very quickly after the first one. And we were joking in our Turin Giants text that Bremmer had scored the goal of the season, even though he didn't really know that he had scored it. And it was followed by an arguably incredible candidate for actual goal of the season thus far. Frederic, do you want to take us through that one, going all the way back to Locatelli's recovery in the box?
Yeah, Locatelli recovers a great ball in the box like he's been doing all day, all game. Hats off to Locatelli again. Another game where he amazes me in terms of what he can do on the pitch. Followed by a through pass to Catherine, who basically runs off the whole pitch with those giant leaps of him, showing the old Catherine Thuram once more, because that was what he was renowned for last season, and we were kind of missing that this season. He kept his composure, played a good ball into David. For me, the pass was not as good. I think it was a little bit too hard, because you could see that it was very difficult to control, but David did that tremendously and slotted it past the keeper. And it was nice to see a counterattack being this fast, this fluid, and this efficient, and especially the fact that Jonathan David can top it off and is very, very, very important, not just to him but to us as a whole.
It's great to see these goals in transition. Just tremendous play from one end of the field to the other. Zach, anything else you would add to that goal?
That is the first goal of a series that involved play and purposeful movement through the middle of the pitch. Yildiz, even before the pass that Frederic was talking about, Yildiz came out, showed centrally to do a give and go with Locatelli to find space to open up Thuram, who was cutting through the middle of the pitch. And that central play opens up options to allow ultimately Thuram to pressure the defenders to make a choice. He then didn't do what he usually does, which is play an overweighted pass or an inaccurate shot to give that weighted ball to David to finish. And that was really encouraging to me, because as much as it was in transition, it wasn't the transition type goal that we have seen, winning the ball high up the pitch. This was a full field execution that involved interplay between 5 or 6 players. And that requires, my word of the day, cohesion and execution in order to capitalize on.
And then we get into, let's take both of the penalty situations. There's a lot of conversation happening in our YouTube live chat here. So we'll kind of take these together. Zach, pretend for a moment Juve wasn't playing and you were watching a neutral match. For each of the penalties, the first one that gets overturned in our favor and the second one that persists, from your perspective, with your knowledge of the game, would you have awarded both or none of the penalties? How would you have done it?
I think I would have awarded both penalties. I think the one against Baskiroto is annoying, and as someone who played defense for 20 odd years, like that, my heart goes. I think the rules suck, but that's a penalty. And from a Locatelli standpoint, people focusing on winning the ball kind of miss the point in terms of you cannot go through a player as a defender. And I think as much as he won the ball, he went through the player, and I think that's a foul. So I'll take the way it shook out, but I think I could have easily have seen that penalty stick, and the fact that it was given on the field and then overturned meant that the referee must have seen overwhelming evidence that he did go through the player in his follow through of the tackle.
I think we benefited from the video
baffling.
feed. I mean, at least with the feed that we had in the US, which I think was just the standard international feed. The video footage that he was shown showed the initial part of the tackle from the side of Locatelli winning the ball first.
Yeah,
like
it did.
Very cleanly, or at
yeah.
least it looked that way. Followed by the follow through of his leg. I feel like if it was reversed, if they had showed the second view first with his cleats going through his shin and leg, it may have yielded a different outcome, but maybe I'm overthinking it.
Can I interrupt for a sec and have my jingle, which I hate, put on?
Oh wait, are we this is the scoop one?
Yeah, it's text came in.
Is this like a media timeout going to our sponsors from the scoop?
Yes,
yeah.
It is.
Freddy Scoops.
And
Scoop. He's the best in the business, see?
Thank you. Just to clarify, Ottolini was in Spain all day. He's currently dealing with Mingueza. Juventus want him now, as in today or tomorrow. The alternative for Mingueza is Mazraoui. So it should be one or the other for the same role in January already. If Chiesa doesn't go through, we'll probably try to push for a loan for Carrasco. But Mazraoui or Mingueza and somebody else who plays in Spain should, more on that later, should be.
I have a question though, Frederic, is you made it clear that the intention was that Ottolini would not be a major player in the winter market. Is that changed?
No, I just think that's a bit of him being right hand to Comoli at this time, and just making the trip in Comoli's name. I think the groundwork was laid by Comoli. I think Ottolini approved of a potential transfer and took it upon him to fly over to Spain to get things a bit done more quickly, because it was Spalletti who was pushing for those backups. So we'll see how that evolves, but I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere this week we have white smoke.
What about real quick to follow up on that, because we had reported on Thiago Almada also earlier today. Is he okay? So all the Spanish players that you mentioned, including Almada as potential additions, depending on the Chiesa and sort of the finances. Yeah,
and this Mingueza is the first in line. Why? Because he can play on both wings as a wing back, can play left and right, so his utility is very important. Mazraoui is a bit the same story, so they're both in the race for that. They both players gave their availability to Juve. And then for the Vaisiel, the situation, it's either Chiesa or Carrasco, from what I hear. So and then of course the player that we highlighted in our Instagram reel, Almada, is also somebody to take into account, because also Almada has given his availability to join Juventus, and there have been some talks back and forth. So we'll keep you posted on that. Sorry to hijack.
No. I wanted to ask because I think there were some questions also in our chat, and if people in audio format didn't quite catch the name, because my depth of all La Liga players is limited, but Mingueza, we're talking about the player at Celta Vigo.
Yeah, with the funny hair.
Okay, he's a Is he center back or?
He can play center back, not well though, but he can. But he's more of a wing back, either left or right. Both fit him.
I just found him. He's got 107 appearances, right-sided defensive player at Celta Vigo, came up through Barcelona's youth system. And Mazraoui, the only Mazraoui I know is at Bayern Munich. Are we talking about the same guy? I don't think so.
Yeah,
we are.
Yeah,
formerly Man U. He's not getting a lot of minutes, but
he did move to Manchester United. That's right.
Yeah, and then he's just not getting a lot of ton of minutes.
I was confused because I thought we were talking about players in Spain, but that just happens to be going on at the same time.
We were more referring to Almada, I think.
Okay.
So that's all I have for now. We'll keep you posted if another text should come in. I'll interrupt you once more. Sorry for that, by the way. But we'll see what happens.
And that was Freddie Scoop with the scoop. Back to our regularly scheduled program. Jumping back into the penalties. So there's still split opinions, I think, on whether these should have been penalties. Our dear friends here in the chat are a bit split. Frederic, your perspective on them.
They were both penalties according to the rules, in my opinion. As Zach eloquently put, Locatelli didn't commit a foul first, but slid into the player, so automatically you should give a penalty there. And the Juve one, according to the rules, is also a penalty because his hand is way too far from his body, and the rules are basically shit. But if you follow them, then you have to give them. But in my opinion, if you have some feeling with the game and you know how the game, you see the ebb and flow of a game, and you can, as a referee, put it on a balancing scale, I think you shouldn't have given either of them, to be honest.
That's kind of how I was looking at it. I think the first one, clearly he wins the ball. Yes, the follow through is there. Things always look worse in slow motion than they do in real time. I thought Locatelli did a nice job there blocking it. I mean, understandably so, he got the player, and I couldn't tell if his reaction, he didn't protest, he put his arms up. I don't know if he was confident that he got the ball, that this would be overturned, or if he knew he went through the player's leg and knew that it should have been a penalty. I couldn't assess.
I think he knew. I think as a player, you can feel that, when you've done wrong, and especially now in the VAR age, that, these images will come back to bite you. So it's sometimes you're better off just saying, okay, my bad, instead of going into that endless discussion. But, it was a good defensive interception. But, in that moment, in that particular movement, you can't just cut away your own foot or an attacker's leg. It's just, it happens in motion. It happens in velocity. You have gravity playing its part there as well. So, yeah, I wouldn't have given it, but I'm glad we didn't get it. But on the other hand, we shouldn't have got the other one either, in my opinion. But I'm glad things went our way a bit, because we've been forced and seen a lot of subjective and fairly odd decisions against us this season. So it was good to, have a night where things went differently. And I think that's the grain of it.
I know we're trying to interpret it by what the rule is, right? And that should be more black and white. But we've seen the refereeing standards in Serie A show too much variability on similar calls. For those who watched Inter Napoli yesterday, the penalty call on was it Rapmani who kind of stepping on Mkhitaryan's foot. But if you go through social media and just other publications, you can find exact incidents in other games where that is not given, when it kind of meets the player at the exact same time. It's it's inconsistent. So I know there is a clear rule in what should and should not be a penalty, but the interpretation of that does not always land the way that we would think. And I just like Tabasciroto, that sucks. Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, you can't slide in with your arms and duct tape to your side.
It's just obnoxious. That was just why my heart goes out to him. But it's like, that's just, it's up to, I mean, and every year they sort of go back at the rules, and the handball rule has been tweaked so many times every season because no matter what they do, it sucks because there's no accounting for, like Frederic said, sort of the feel of a game or a feel of a moment, because you can't objectively put into a rule book, like judging on the flow of game or whatever. I mean, it's impossible. And so they're doing the best they can and interpreted the way it is. Like, that is totally unfair to the defender. It's just up to the governing body to say, we're okay with that and to keep the rule in. So, we benefited from it today. I think the most important thing with these types of rules, to go to your point, Kevin, is consistency. And you go back to the handball rule, like in Europe, where Douglas Luiz last year gave a couple up that where his hands were quite close to his body, like against Leipzig and stuff. They still gave those handballs because the UEFA standard is slightly different than the Serie A standard. It's obnoxious. It's really obnoxious. Like, I'll gratefully take it today, but I think overall, when you see different standards and inconsistency in these types of rules, it's a chore for fans watching game out to see a different level of officiating.
They are trying
on the
to
other side of this. We'd be complaining.
Of course.
We were on the other side of both of those calls today.
Absolutely.
They're trying to revise this whole VAR situation, especially with the handballs prior to the World Cup. FIFA and UEFA together and make up one general rule for every club in the world, basically, and the tournaments that are played intercontinentally or European mainland or whatever. So I hope they come up with like a clear rule so we don't have these types of discussions, because it ruins the flow of a game as well. You stand there arguing, you're looking yourself, you don't know what to do. Should you cheer? Should you not cheer? It's waiting, it's time wasting, it's all these people bickering with the ref. I mean, it just doesn't do the game any good, I think. So I hope they get a clear rule in and that it's over with. So, but back to the game, as Mikkel says, and we're on Mikkel's timeline here. So
real quickly about that third goal. So the penalty. Yeah. Before we get to the actual pen quality and the finish, I want to keep with my personal theme of the day of cohesion and central play. The lead up to that penalty was once again an absolutely fantastic central interplay with our team, starting once again with Locatelli, who found Miretti, who did an absolute wonderful job today finding pockets of space, turned upfield, feeds it into David, who played a perfectly weighted pass back to Thuram, hoping to sort of give back to the person who dealt him. And Thuram made that shot that was deflected by Tabasciroto off his leg into his hand, and then the pen. So that's like, again, two straight, quick, full field central movement plays that were extremely fruitful, starting with Locatelli playing quick and direct.
Absolutely. And Yildiz benefiting from the keeper getting a hand, I think, to that. Otherwise, he would not have been able to finish that if it had just come right off the post. So that was another third lucky thing that happened to us kind of in a row there. So look, what an incredible first half that we went through. Again, the first time being up by more than one goal going into halftime. Two normal goals, a third PK, which we discussed that enough. What was different about this first half before we transition into the second half? Zach, what was different about this than what we've seen in other matches so far, even in this nice string of results?
45 plus 5 minutes of excellent football. Other than a moment of Cambiaso's chest back to Di Gregorio, which was tenuous, but ultimately harmless. And the poor opening sequence in the first 20 seconds of the game where we tried this move and instantly coughed it up to a counterattack opportunity. This was 50 straight minutes of high pressing, high quality, aggressive attacking football. And we talked about struggling to start games well, and these moments of insanity or blackouts. When was the last time we also put together an entire half, or nay, an entire game of end-to-end, high-quality, controlling, dominant play?
We had a bit of luck, to be honest, because it was the way we played the last 3 games, more or less. But, if you look at the way we scored the first goal, which was, let's be honest here, a lucky goal, so early in the game, that boosts your confidence. And then that third goal, which shouldn't have been a penalty, but we got that. But then we missed the penalty and slotted home on the rebound. These are the things that changes a game, because if you don't have those 2 lucky moments, so to speak, but you have to make your own luck. I know that. But if that was to happen, then we'd still be 1-0 probably in the dressing room, which makes for an all other outlook. So it's momentum like this that show that the team is growing, because now they can basically make their own luck, choose their moments better, and be a bit more clinical and finishing. And these are the things that make or break a game. And we were very passive in the past, and you see that mentality, that boost of confidence does this trick and make sure that we can draw a game and be commanders in a game, and we dictate the pace, we dictate the tempo. Yep. We choose our moments, and once we do that, and we are able to do that, we're very strong. But once we tend to lean back and leave the ball to the opposition, then our glaring faults start showing. And this is something we need to avoid at all costs. And Spalletti is very aware of this.
So you tee up the next question, which I'll keep it with you, Frederic. So given Zach's perspective on the first half, given what you just said, what did you want to see going into the second half?
An exact copy paste. And I knew it wasn't going to be doable for another 45 minutes, because if you bring on subs, no matter how good they are, something always happens within the chemistry of a game. So I was accounting for that, but I was just hoping that Spalletti would leave the players as on the pitch as long as he could, to get that little chemistry going in a game where the pressure is gone, but you still have to perform, because the pressure was gone in the second half. But Spalletti was up there riling him up, saying it's not done, get on. And this is the kind of mentality you need to create. If you were to throw in 3 youth players at that time, because you might as well could, you break off the whole balance and chemistry of that confidence buildup. So I was very pleased to see that he left a lot of players on the pitch, and he was still aiming for that 4th, that 5th, even that 6th goal. So well done. And even though the second half had its bit of dips, which is usual due to the fatigue, the subs and whatever, I still thought that was a very high quality second half from Juventus' side.
Yeah, so I want to talk about the goals, and I want to talk about the subs, and then we can discuss some individual performances. So the 4th goal, that pass from Miretti, who wants to take this?
Dude, I want to take this. Because we were talking a lot about players that we need, players on the team. Can they do a job in this team? And a couple players that we noted were struggling were Thuram, who was involved in 2 of the goal and the penalty one already. David, who over the last 2 games has done quite well, and Miretti, showing inconsistency. And his performance today was not perfect. He got bounced off the ball a couple times because he's not the strongest player. But the upside of Miretti, I think, was very much on display in his ability to find space. So Di Gregorio gets the ball, gives it to Locatelli, once again finding himself on the build-up play, or the catalyst to forward movement. He turns up the field quickly, delivering it to Miretti, once again finding a pocket of space. And then outside of the boot, cross field into the channel to a darting McKenney. It gave me Pogba vibes of just the perfectly weighted, perfectly placed ball with backed by supreme vision and technical execution. That it just made me extremely impressed. I think it was the icing on the cake of a wonderful performance from Miretti once again. It gave me a vision of the potential of this starting 11 moving forward. If we can have him sort of round off the rough edges of his performance and get more of just the bonuses. Of course, McKenney's got to finish the job. I would have loved for him to get credit for that goal. Obviously, it ended up an own goal, but that assist, I went back and watched it a couple times just because I wanted to see, was he lucky? Was he mishit it? And he saw the whole play develop. You could see it in his eyes and demeanor and the way he executed it. And that was one of the best passes we've seen all year to yield a goal. And so just tons of credit for Miretti for that play.
Yeah, it was one of the most difficult. Anyone who played football at a certain level can attest to this. This is one of the most difficult passes that you can make. You have to keep in mind the trajectory, the spin of the ball when you control it before you pass it. You have to keep in mind the trajectory of the defender, the trajectory of the attacking player or his run line. You have to keep in mind that, the velocity or the weight of the pass or whatever. So many different factors, and it's like 90% of the time when you hit a pass like that, it just doesn't go where you want it to go. But this is Miretti, and Zach and I spoke about this a lot, that especially last season, that Miretti wasn't the Miretti that we wanted to see and that he fell short at times. And to me, that was very frustrating because I saw Miretti train a couple of times. And he was so good. He was always so good, so technical, so much vision. I mean, I'm not going to compare them, but he reminded me of Pirlo at times in terms of ball handling, vision, technique, whatever. And you're kind of sad if you can't see him put that on a pitch in a professional game. And past few games he's done that, so I'm very excited for him as well because he's shown his true potential. And this Miretti deserves a spot on our Juventus team, I feel, especially in this formation.
If Chico's healthy tomorrow, who starts? Who starts against Cagliari on Saturday?
Miretti.
I think so. I think so. I know that it's hard to play in Sardinia and at times, but the Cagliari is really struggling. I think they lost today with 3-0 against Genoa, if I'm not mistaken. With the way he is occupying space to build confidence, and from a Chico perspective, to not rack up miles on Chico, who's getting injured. I think you continue to play with what works and give a young player confidence, just like with Thuram, just like with David, players who are having a moment, you allow them to ride that moment, build confidence and grow.
I don't even think that there's space for Conceição on this team, the way that we're playing right now.
If we keep this 4-2-3-1, I was concerned. Like, we spoke about this earlier this week, last week. Time's kind of a blur right now. After the post Sassuolo match, that I would concerned that it a little bit lopsided in attack with Miretti, because you have Kenan on the left, who does play more of a natural winger and coming in centrally, and Miretti, who is taking Conceição's name on the starting 11, is not a winger and doesn't hug the right and goes more central. And would we be able to attack in the right way from the right side of the pitch? But from what we saw against Sassuolo and what we saw today, albeit not the best opposition that we're going to come against, but the combination and hybrid play and how the interchange between Miretti, McKenney, and Kalulu has worked.
Especially with David, I feel.
That's the key.
Right side.
That's the key with David, because if you put Chico in there, you have two players, Yildiz and Chico, who want to play out wide, which puts David in a pocket of space by himself. When you take out Chico and you put in and you have McKenney and Miretti in the pitch, you see this sort of 3-man lever system where ones will go up and other ones drop deep between the three of them, creating really complex issues of marking and space for defenders. And today, and against Sassuolo, they were not able to handle the movement. First, Miretti, they're like, okay, we're going to focus on the other guys because they're more proven commodities. Today as well. And then they tried to follow Miretti, and then David found those pockets of space on the second and the third goals. McKenney switches over when he's playing sort of the left attacking midfielder after Yildiz is subbed out, finds that pocket of space on the back side of Kalulu's cross. They were not able to handle the interchange of movement between these players that Chico will never be able to do because he always will want to drift outside. He cannot do the overlapping, underlapping central play that a more central-oriented attacking midfielder will do. McKenney does it instinctually. Miretti, you're seeing him grow into that role, scoring that beautiful goal off of the interchange with David last game, and then turn provider today. That's a role that Chico will never play due to his skill set and his struggles to impact the game between the boxes.
And Spalletti said it himself. He said, I want wingers who can also be creative and be dangerous in the center of the pitch. So Spalletti's drifting away from that. I want this pure winger formation with, a left and a right-sided winger who can come in either, do that cross into the middle, or no, he wants players that are more versatile. And, given the fact that I'm a bit dubious about Conceição's injury at the moment. I don't know.
Let's not start any conspiracy theory.
No, I'm not on a conspiracy theory thing. I think they're trying to save him. I think he had a knock and he still feels things. But I think ultimately, when Spalletti has in mind that he wants to play Miretti and he has a Grova as a backup, he says, okay, for me, there's no need to put Chico on the bench. So let him be. I just don't see Chico as this definitive Spalletti type player. And
open games like today in Sassuolo, I was surprised how open today's game was. Miretti is preferred because of his ability to find space in between the boxes against teams that are going to sit deep and not move out of their box. I'm not convinced yet, and Miretti has shown that he is not convincing yet against low blocks. That is where Chico has shined because of his ability to find space where there isn't any. And so I think Chico still very much has a role on this game, this team. I think it's maybe a race. Can Miretti show impact against the low block teams quicker than Chico can show impact in more open games to determine which one really in the long term deserves that role? I think starting, this next game, I'm sticking with my pick of Miretti, but
yeah,
both of them haven't showed enough. It's in my, and maybe I think my race analogy is the way I'm going to think about it moving forward, of which one can develop that missing piece in their game. To be honest, if I had to pick one, I'd say Miretti's more likely to do it by virtue of his default skill set in the way I see it.
Yeah, I'm here for his development, and I said it before on the pod. I was at the game in Turin for his first start for the first team, and it was just electrifying to see his reception at the stadium and what he brought to what was a very, very dull Juventus side that season. So it's great to see him progress. And I hope, again, this isn't just a blip and that this is something that we can build upon. We've been speaking about the right side of the pitch, and the fifth goal came from just that. We had Locatelli playing very nice vertical ball forward. It gets out to Kalulu, who puts in a stunning cross with fantastic McKenney header, who probably would not have been on the left side of the field had not Yildiz left the pitch just a few minutes earlier for a substitution. So he found himself out on the left and popped up at the right moment with a great finish. Frederic, in our WhatsApp chat, you had Exclamation. What? A cross? What? A header? What are we looking at here? So explain your reaction.
Yeah, well, it's been a while that we saw a decent cross being met with a decent header and being effective, as in leading to a goal. So for me, I think I was more charmed by the way that not just the goal itself, but this looked like something we practiced on the training ground, to be honest. This looked like something deliberate, not just Kalulu hoofing it forward and, inshallah, I hope somebody reaches this ball. I think this was very deliberate, especially with McKenney being there, because we know that McKenney, header-wise, is one of the strongest of the team. So I was glad to see that the things that we tried to improve on training, which Spalletti also said, because he hated the fact that we at times don't cross very well or not don't have enough aerial threat, and to see it being converted to a goal with that pace, with that fluidity. I think the only negative thing I can find about that goal, well, negative is a big word, is that McKenney just didn't seem too happy. I imagine him as doing his Harry Potter celebration with a big smile, but I think we were all left waiting for the smile.
He was pissed that they took his other goal away. I think that's what he had already done his celebration once. He didn't need to do it again.
His body language was off in that game, though, right? I mean, he just did not look. I don't know. He didn't look happy. He didn't look thrilled, and I don't think it was just about him being serious. I think, I don't know. My instinct immediately goes to his renewal, and something's not working right with the extension. And he's out there being a professional, putting in a hard day's work, but not thrilled about what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, Frederic, you've talked you've talked about McKenney, and in fact, I think you when we were doing some scoop prep, you've made some notes about the potential for him to have a renewal after, for months, there being no talks between Juventus and his agent. Where do we stand on that?
Well, we're talking right now, so Juventus are very eager to break open his contract, but not on the terms that he demands. I think he wants 6.5 million net. Juventus aren't prepared to throw that number at him.
That's massive.
That is massive. Then you're in the top 3 or top 4 highest paid players. I don't think Juventus are very eager and keen to, because Juventus have their sights set on other big names. And I think if you start handing out contract extensions now worth 6.5, worth 6, worth 5.5 for players that have been good, granted, then you might make it, a bit harder on yourself for the summer to get other players, and especially if you're looking for players that you can get on a free, which you will have to convince by giving them good salaries.
But you have flexibility in the negotiations. If there's genuine interest between the two, I mean, I think with bonuses, with a goal scoring midfielder like McKenney, with appearances because of how healthy he generally is, you can backdoor in some compensation, right, Frederic? You can be creative if both parties are genuinely interested in continuing to do business without breaking your wage model.
I think that the main gripe between Juventus and McKenney at this point is that McKenney is holding off the boat a bit to see what teams will come a knocking. And I don't think that Juventus likes that mentality. So
you can't blame them, though, man. I mean, come on. I mean, whether they like it or not, you can't. Why you blame a guy to when you didn't give him the renewal he wanted, for him to go see if he can get paid elsewhere?
Especially when he's been treated like this, like consistently year after year, loaned out, not extending, give him a 1-year extension. You're on the bench. You're in, you're out. You're in, you're out. I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
No, but I think this is going to be something that's going to be left over to Spalletti. I think if Spalletti stays, and chances are very, very, very big that Spalletti stays, he'll sit down and talk with McKenney and say, Wes, to me, you're a valuable player, maybe the most valuable one on the pitch, next to Kalulu. For me, you're a starter in any way, shape, or form. I really want you here. I really want to build something. And I'm hoping if I could do that with you, and I know that you're asking for this and this amount, and maybe that's a bit, can we not, figure something out? And we'll see, but it's not going to be one of those things. I don't see him signing his extension in January already.
No, I'm
Let-
sure
let me just put it
it'll
like
play
that.
out. It'll play
Yeah.
out. So I want to. There's been a lot of requests in our YouTube chat here to comment on Zagrova and the sub. So I want to
Mhm.
cover that. I want to get to Spalletti's comments, and then we'll round it out with our man of the match pick, which will be difficult. I think we're going to have a number of honorable mentions here. A number of players deserve a shout out. Zach Zagrova, let's just spend a minute or two here. Disappointing, huh?
He comes on when it's 4-0. And even in a game that's done at that point, what does he come on? What is 62nd minute, it's 4-0. You still you're going to lose some of the cohesion. Frederic talked about it with subs, and especially with how well you're playing, you're going to lose some of the cohesion. But you still expect people to play professionally and cleanly to close out the game. And I think when you look at some other people, Coop Miners, who you can't say in his cameo appearance was like super impactful. He just kind of helped see out the game. See out the game. Zagrova did the opposite. He was too cute with the ball. I think he was trying to do a little bit too much in a game where just quick passing and movement got us 4 goals. And I don't know if it was a laissez-faire, we're up 4-0 attitude, or a, hey, let me try to do a little bit too much to show that I can get in on the action. But it was not the kind of attitude and approach and execution that I would like from a substitute player who comes in the in a 4-0 game that we're trying to see out and get him some match fitness.
He's been a bit of a disappointment. He's the typical futsal player that you like to see when he has his day, but you hate to see when it's not his day. And I'd like to see him contribute to something a bit more meaningful. And we always, defend him because he's a nice player to look at, technically. But the fact of the matter is that he played close to 360 minutes now this season, even a bit more, and he hasn't produced a goal or an assist, which is his main job. So I think that Spalletti's going to have a sit down with him as well, because I don't think that Spalletti is into these types of gimmicks and tricks and wants him to be a bit more proactive or a bit more dangerous, or however you want to call it. And for now, I think that, it's a bit of a Coop Miner story, and loop. We bought a player, albeit not for that much as in an amount, but we had high hopes for the guy. And he hasn't delivered thus far. So here's to hoping that he will deliver. Because if he doesn't, then, and he'll follow Chico's path in that way, he'll become redundant as well.
I mean, we've been talking a lot about Chiesa, and people are very torn on where they want to see him come back. But the fact is that Chiesa has
He's another one of those players.
But hold on, Chiesa has 5 goal contributions in garbage time minutes, and Zagrova has 0. So you can talk
hockey assists, I think, right?
Yeah, but I mean, and I'm going to applaud some hockey assists today, and I already have. But when it comes to what position he plays, right? When we're talking about Locatelli providing long passes, you're going to see a lot of hockey assists because of where he plays on the pitch. Zagrova's there to help contribute goals. My main complaint about Chico has been the fact that when we signed him, it was his price tag and was going to be ultimately contingent on 2 things. One, him developing between the boxes better, and him contributing goals and assists, which is what he did last year. He hasn't done that this year. Zagrova's done nothing this year in terms of producing goals in admittedly garbage time minutes. But Chiesa, as much as I don't want to see him return, and he's only getting garbage time minutes, has actually produced goals and assists for Liverpool in the time he's been able to play. And if Zagrova can't even do that, we saw a lot of promise in it, but it's not materializing halfway through the season.
Yeah. And I want to just call it timeout because I don't want to go down a Chiesa rabbit hole.
No.
Let's shift. No. But I appreciate the point is well taken that we've got players on the wings who have technical quality and ability, but the output and the impact on the match is lacking. And Zagrova has not been able to demonstrate that he's contributing to the outcomes of football games, despite the minutes that he's getting. Spalletti came out after the match and indicated we were in control. We had a good game and were set out well. We had the right hunger against an opponent that knows what it's doing. Davide Nicola knows the top flight very well and what his squad has to do. So they are well organized and ready to battle. With a bit of good luck, we managed to get the result on track early, but then had some bad luck with that penalty off the upright. I think all things considered, we were in charge, although there were still a few wobbles that are hard to get rid of. He went on to comment about the match against Inter and Napoli last night, given that we're coming up against them after the Cagliari match in Serie A with Benfica in between those. He indicated he watched Inter Napoli last night. They showed top level of football, open and attacking football with character and ideas representing their coaches. I think we need to improve a lot to reach that level. And we need to take those steps quickly. I have seen great effort from these lads, so I feel we can make those improvements. So again, keeping the team grounded and not letting a good string of results get ahead of them. And then closes, I just want to note that in my view, neither of those two penalties today should have been awarded.
I mean, that kind of falls into what we said about is that they were brutal penalties that don't really fall within the I think the spirit of football.
Can I reiterate the fact that I love how Spalletti handles his post?
I agree. I love how he composes himself and the words that he chooses.
And the guy just oozes football knowledge. Like never a wrong word, never. He gets into conflict situations because that's the whole thing in Serie A. You need to get a bit of that spectacular vibe going, but when he talks football and he talks the comparison with other teams, he shields his team so well. He tries to keep everybody so leveled and so focused. He reminds me a bit of Conte in his prime. Conte was always the coach, or at least his first year, to defend the team, to not get too carried away, but was very eager to say, we are Juventus. We should be aiming for the sky. This is what we were built to do. And Spalletti holds that fine line between being ambitious, but not being overly optimistic.
And what I love as well is he does go on to talk about his contract situation, indicating I already said that I am the only person who doesn't need a contract right now, because if I were to start again, I'd hope to find a new team. We talked about it at the start with the general manager and we're very clear. So I am not interested in that contract. I just want to see these players giving the excitement I got from football when I started playing as a kid and then coaching later on. That is what makes the difference for me. Pretty awesome to hear. So as we kind of bring things to a conclusion here, we have to get to our most favorite segment.
I have a very big testicles.
So man of the match. This is a tough one. Zach, give me one player and why.
I'm going to give it to Locatelli. And the reason is very simple. Is 4 out of the 5 goals went through him, through quick, vertical passing, direct passing. And they don't happen if it's the Locatelli of old taking too many touches and lingering on the ball. And they certainly don't happen if that's Koopmeiners.
Frederic.
Kelly.
One name and why.
Kelly. Again, stellar performance. Didn't make a single mistake. Was always on time. Was very graceful at times. Very proactive. And what I liked about him, he did his up and down the pitch thing quite a couple of times. And I mean, you could argue for Luca Miretti because we had so many. But for me, Kelly once again delivering because he's the most consistent guy in our team. We often talk about McKenney and deservedly so. We talk about Loca, we talk about Kenan, but Kelly has been on fire since day one. He's been at it since Tudor arrived, and he's even getting better with Spalletti, with Bremmer. And what what I felt today was very nice to see was the link up play between defense in terms of Kelly with Miretti. That worked out very, very, very well.
Can I plug for a second, Kevin? For those of you who have tuned into our It's Black and White series, where Frederic and I debate topics around Juventus, this Locatelli Kelly situation is one that's going to rear its head. I believe on Wednesday we will be releasing another episode of It's Black and White, where we fight over who has been more impactful or better for Juventus in this half season between Locatelli and Kelly. So stay tuned for that release on Wednesday, where I once again will defeat Frederic. Okay, Kevin, sorry. Back.
I'm excited to listen to that as a fan. That's going to be a great listen. And for those of you who haven't tuned in to those episodes, they are awesome, kind of punchy 20-25 minute listens. And they've just been an absolute joy. You two are doing some great work there. What a great concept. Locatelli and Kelly were probably not the first names out of most of the folks trying to pick man of the match. Do we actually know who the official man of the match was? Did anybody see that?
It was McKenney.
McKenney.
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I think McKenney gets a lot of votes, understandably so. Who actually kind of had I don't want to say flat, but wasn't a standout performer in the first half. I think there was a lot of really great performances from Locatelli, from Miretti. David had a nice first half, but then had a lot of kind of misses in the second that I think kind of knocked against his performance. You had Yildiz with a really nice first half performance, but McKenney really stepping up in the second half. There's a lot of names for a lot of people shouting out Miretti here in the chat. Kalulu needs to get an honorable mention. Even in a 5-0 game, the guy can't buy a sub.
No, but at this point, look, he's been our Iron Man, and I try to bring this up in these episodes, Kevin, because when things are going well, you often don't highlight the defense because there's less for them to do. And Kelly and Kalulu's influence, and certainly Bremmer since he's been back, but for the entire season, Kelly and Kalulu's influence needs to be lauded and acknowledged by the fan base if they're not doing. I know many people in the chat here are, which is good to see, because the consistency that they're putting high quality two-way contributions, across today. Kelly's popped up with a couple from Kalulu. Kelly's popped up with a couple goals. They have been consistent. They've been solid, and it has helped transform our defense under Tudor, which was leaking goals, to under Spalletti, where we're getting strings of clean sheets, which was helped today. For a quick moment, I know Frederic is just itching to talk Di Gregorio on, at least one really good save from Di Gregorio to keep it that way.
Yeah, it was a good save.
Yeah, it was. And Thuram had one of his better matches as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been critical of him not stepping up and not showing us what we've thought he's been capable of, and not really growing from what was a really nice second half of last year. But today was a nice match and a reminder of what he is capable of. I just want to see more of it. That's for sure. Well, guys, we have Cagliari on Saturday, which is always a tricky away match, followed by Benfica, Napoli, and away to Monaco to maybe see the return against Paul Pogba if he remains fit. But a tricky string of matches here to close out the month of January. I'll give you each just kind of a final statement, sentiment here to share about our team or about our fans here tuning into the chat.
This growth needs to continue against Cagliari away, because the trickiness really doesn't really start at the end of this month. I mean, as much as the Benfica and the Monaco games are important, and us three will be with Beppe at the Napoli game, after those games, so February, we come up with a string where we play pretty much every single top 6 team in Serie A back to back to back to back. And so the important thing is, with that in mind, is build up to a level of confidence, cohesion, my word of the day, and execution to ensure that when you take on those big boys, that you don't luck into a 4-3 victory against Inter. No, you dominate them. You don't put in a benign, weak, tactically nonsensical performance against Napoli. You beat them, and so on and so forth. So I want this growth to continue with a mind to, when we get to the really tricky games, that we start demonstrating at least some level of the Juventus of old.
Frederic, final comments before you need to get to bed, my friend, and get some rest.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, not your mom. No, I think we just need to, as I stated a couple of weeks ago, look game per game. I don't think we need to focus too much on the games that are coming, because they'll all be difficult in their own way. I think we just need to seal the deal at Cagliari, just to put pressure on the teams that are just above us or just below us. I think that's the main thing to do. And then eventually, if we get some reinforcements in, and if we keep this positive attitude, mentality, and winning streak going, then, come end of February, we can make a short, summary of what we can achieve still. But I think until the middle or the end of February, we just need to look at it game by game by game, because we lost too many points in order for us now to be very cocky and very, think, let's see what we can do against Cagliari, and we'll see where we go from there.
And you know what this means? The next home Serie A Juve match is when the three of us are together in Turin for Juventus Napoli.
Yes,
so
sir.
excited to see you guys. I can't wait for the end of January to come together. And we hope to bring all of you joining us here live on YouTube. And for those of you listening or watching something later on, some great content from that game. I can't wait.
And shout out everyone here who's been fantastic. Just
Yeah,
before we sign off, sorry, Kevin, I know we're signing off. The discussion in the chat has been fantastic today. It's good to see, our returning members, folks who we haven't seen in a while. Sky, I don't think you've been on for a minute, and then other folks contributing throughout. So we appreciate all of you.
Yeah.
5-0 wins are easy to talk about. Let's get some more of these, right?
I agree. Bring it.
Especially against Napoli.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
So yeah, I'm there for it. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone again who joined live on YouTube. Thank you to those listening and or watching later. We appreciate you spending some time with us. And as always, fino alla fine, forza Juventus.
Conclusione